Good morning, students. Today I am going to teach you about the cell membrane or plasma membrane. As we know that in the previous class we have studied about the different cell and the shape of the cells and how the term cell is generalized and under the microscope. Under the microscope, when we study about the structure of the cell, we find that the outermost layer of the cell is known as the cell membrane or the plasma membrane. Cell membrane or plasma membrane plays very important role in and out of the some chemicals which are formed or made inside the cell, and the some the chemicals which are needed to go inside the cell. So plasma membrane is the most important structure which is outside of the cell. When we study about the structure of the plasma membrane, then we can say that the plasma membrane is made of the two layers. So two layers is known as bilayer, and out of this bilayer model, outside there are the phospholipid. This means that why phospholipids? Phospholipids are the most important chemicals which are movable, and it allows the water molecules to go inside the cell, and the some chemicals which are formed inside the cell, this can be outside of the cell. During the structure of the cell membrane, we see that the cell has the phospholipid layers, and these phospholipid layers, which is uh, two in numbers, the outermost structure of these phospholipid is polar head, and inside there is a polar tail. Polar head is hydrophobic in the nature. Now, what is hydrophobic means and what is hydrophilic means? The polar head, which is hydrophilic, which means that this is water loving. Hydro means water and philic means loving. So polar head of phospholipid is water loving in nature. So then what is the role of this polar head and hydrophilic head? When the water outside of the cell comes in the contact of the outer layer, it traps, it has some receptors. These receptors receive the water molecules and let these water molecules to go inside, and there is a non-polar tails. These non-polar tails are hydrophobic in nature. Then why it is hydrophobic in nature? This means that when the water molecules are not soluble into it, these are goes into the hydrophobic tails. As for example, there are various kind of the chemicals which made inside the cell. It when become the excessive inside the cells, so plasma membrane layer, this polar head and non-polar heads, these absorbs the chemicals and they select it that it is not useful for the cells. These are being expelled out from the cell, and the receptors which are outside of the polar heads, these are also helpful in the nature, that when any chemicals which are suitable for go inside to enter inside the cell, then these are being taken by the some extrinsic protein. This extrinsic protein takes the selective molecules या water molecules या chemicals and it let it to go inside the cell. So ultimately we can say that plasma membrane is a most important membrane, or it can be also said as the selective permeable membrane, because selective permeable membranes means what? It selects those chemicals or the molecules, water molecules, which are useful for the cells. These are being uh, absorbed and allow them to enter inside the cell, which are not useful, harmful for the cells. These are being selected by the intrinsic protein, and this intrinsic protein absorbs those harmful chemicals and they exit it out from the cell. So we can say that plasma membrane selects those useful and harmful substances and let them to be inside or to be outside of the cell. So it provides the mobility to the useful substance from in and outside of the cell. So the plasma membrane is said to be the selective permeable membrane. When we talk about the cell membrane and plasma membrane, the one biologist that is remarkable in the structure and function of the plasma membrane study is the Singer and Nicholson. Singer and Nicholson was the first biologist who deep study about the nature and structure of the plasma membrane. He has given the one model. This is called the bilayer model. This is also known as the fluid mosaic model. Now what does fluid mean? Fluid means that flow, the substance which are following, which are movable, these are called the fluid. As for example, water is fluid. Sometimes we may have seen that some storms that are blowing from the west to east, north to south. So these are movable, wind is movable. On the same way, when we talk about in the context of water molecules and the chemicals, they have also flow in nature. They have also the following nature. They flow inside and outside of the cell. So in 1972, Singer and Nicholson has proposed a bilayer model. According to this bilayer model, the plasma membrane is made up of the two layers. These two layers is bounded